Nailed it again. All right. I got my adult beverage, aka hot water.
This should be good. I'm pretty stoked for this.
I can tell. I'm not.
Do you like my notes?
Yes, I'm not stoked. Welcome back to Absolutely the Best Podcast, a work in progress. I'm Zach. With me, as always, is the gatekeeper of slow motion, my good friend George.
Hello.
Apologies in advance. I am sick, but I'm powering through for you. I will try to edit out as much of the coughing and sniffling as possible. First, I want to say Happy Asian Pacific American Heritage. Jeez, let me start over. Happy Asian Pacific American Heritage Month to you, George, and our AAPI listeners. And calm down, white people. We still have most of the year to ourselves. It's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
I was chuckling specifically because of that, because I was seeing all the hubbub about the Acolyte trailer.
What's that?
It's the new Star Wars movie, or the new Star Wars series, I think, coming out.
Okay.
A bunch of people on Twitter are pissing themselves because apparently the Jedi are multicultural.
Oh, well, how dare they?
I don't know.
I didn't even mean for those two things to tie in like that. Interesting. My favorite thing about May the 4th be with you is the Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager explaining why July 4th is Star Wars Day. Or July 4th. Why May 4th is Star Wars Day. That's a good one. Look that up if you haven't seen it. Where
I'll have to look that up.
He calls Jabba the Hutt Fatty the Slug. And oh man, there's just like that's not even close to the funniest thing in there. It's so good. It makes me laugh every time. I'll put that in the notes. I'll send you the link later.
Yeah, I need to see that one.
You said the magic word trailer. Did you want to cover the Deadpool Wolverine trailer? It's a few weeks old at this point. You didn't put any notes in, but if you want to cover it, we can. But I don't.
Yeah, I forgot to take notes on it, but mostly because I am just like pretty hyped. I don't really know how to explain it. I had my reservations about like, oh, Hugh Jackman's kind of up there in age, so he's kind of, but like,
looking
and
all right.
Also, no, not looking bad at all. But also, he just did such a good job on Logan.
Yeah,
and that
it was kind
like,
of his swan song, right?
Yeah, like Logan was just Logan was awesome.
Yeah, you didn't want to see him come back and potentially tarnish that ending.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as like I have all the faith in the Deadpool series, making it worth it, I was just still worried. But that trailer looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And the big baddie there, I guess, is Professor Xavier's twin sister.
I had to look up who it was. I don't know anything. Cassandra
Nova. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. She looks a lot like the what was her name?
Oh.
Yes.
I know
in Doctor Strange.
Yes.
I can't remember. I'm blanking at the moment.
Of course, because you asked, I can't remember it either. It begins with a T, the actress's name. Anyways.
Yeah. Tilda
Swinton. Yes.
Yeah.
The white actress playing the Asian character. Oops. She's really weird, though. I like her. Anyways. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. It looks good. I was surprised that the guy from Succession is in it, Matthew McFadden. McFadden, I guess it's pronounced. I didn't know he was English though.
Did you catch some of the stuff like the big Ant-Man?
Yes, I was. What is that about?
That was a callback to some of the What If series.
Oh, okay.
It's like the metaverse. They're jumping through universes and stuff.
Yep.
But there was also, I saw a screenshot of there's different, like Lady Deathstrike was one of the figures standing in front of it. So was Toad.
Okay.
Is
Lady Deathstrike the one in X-Men 2?
Yeah,
played by yeah. She's awesome. Yeah.
And then Azazel, like the Nightcrawler's father.
Yeah. Okay.
Was there. Just like it looks like a new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or something.
All right.
I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
I think everybody is after seeing that. I mean, how do you not Wolverine stabbing Deadpool in the nuts? I was like, they went there. That was pretty awesome.
Do you think there'll be a Loki scene?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You would think so, but I don't know.
I could see maybe like a real quick, a quick cameo or maybe a stinger at the end or something. I feel like they might do that.
Maybe because he's supposed to be like the new timekeeper
Right.
thingy, right?
Right.
So I don't know.
There's one line early on in the trailer that I really like, but I feel like they kind of stole a joke from another movie. And so in this, in the trailer, it's when Deadpool points the gun at Wolverine and he says,
Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider.
but did you ever see Cuffs? The Christian Slater? Oh man, that's a good movie. But there's a scene in that where he points a gun to like this bad guy's forehead. He's like,
Do we have an understanding, or do you want to see if you can breathe through your forehead?
Motion detected at the front door.
Sorry.
it's okay. Anyways, so I thought that was a pretty similar joke. Forgivable. And hey, still a good joke that's 30 years old or whatever. That's fine.
It's a great joke.
Yeah.
I was definitely chuckling after that line.
Yes. Yeah, so, but in general, I think we're both pretty excited for it. And I think we're planning to do, like, when it comes out, I think we're going to try to get an episode out on it pretty quick, but one that's spoiler free, possibly with like a preliminary ranking. I think it's I'm going to have to watch it a few times to be sure, of course, but I think that's the plan. So when that comes out, we'll do a quick episode on it, late July or early August.
Sounds good.
All right. On to the main feature. This is Series 1, Episode 10. We're into the double digits. And today we're talking about 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. I got to lean into the bass because it's my...
You should.
Got to use the sick voice while I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope I don't like blow something out here on the microphone. This is another one that you should definitely watch. Don't skip this one. This is a good movie. And it's basically standalone. I don't think you need to see anything before this, right? I mean,
yeah.
I guess it helps to know a little bit about the Infinity Stones, but anything you need to know is kind of explained, and it's almost entirely new characters. So I would also recommend watching it before listening to the podcast. And not necessarily again. I mean, why not? It's a good movie, but if you haven't seen it even once, definitely watch it because there's a lot of like space locations and alien species, which might be hard to make sense of if you haven't seen it. And we're going to be discussing that kind of stuff a lot. So, do you want to get started with the initial thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, when it comes to Guardians of the Galaxy, I distinctly remember reading about James Gunn jumping on to direct this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going, what? Why? Because I'd read, I read comics a lot, but to me, I was like, why would you go from all this other stuff and right onto this really weird comic book with like a talking raccoon?
It's odd.
Basically a tree, a guy that's made of a tree. It's just like, it's such a weird hodgepodge of like characters, right? I was on Reddit and somebody made a post about how, yeah, Josh Whedon said that Avengers 2 wouldn't cross paths with Guardians of the Galaxy. And I made a smart ass comment about how I thought it would be actually awesome if it did cross paths and Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers 2 crossed over somehow, because I was like, I never really liked Guardians of the Galaxy because it's a talking raccoon and an ant. And I was like, how fun could that be? And that was because I had bare bones knowledge of the Guardians.
But they didn't cross over until Avengers Infinity War, though, right?
They didn't.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. And at the time, too, I was like, oh, I was writing off of Avengers was really good.
Yeah.
But now, I totally own how wrong I was. I recently watched Rebel Moon, so apologies in advance to any Zack Snyder fans because I'm totally about to piss all over that electric fence. Just because they're two really great. They're two team movies, but James Gunn just so expertly put the Guardians of the Galaxy together, right? Like whenever I watch it, I just feel like there's so much to appreciate beyond like the special effects. There's the awesome soundtrack and the perfectly timed expositions, right? And like all this witty banter between the characters, like even Rocket's trauma, I didn't realize was being hinted at the whole time, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that huge payoff in Rocket's origin story in the Guardians.
Yeah. Once you've seen all three and then you go back at the beginning again, there's a lot that's been hinted at. And
right.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
It's awesome. Like, I don't even know, like, how do you not tear up in Guardians 3? when you see everything that Rocket's been going through, and then you piece it together from the different movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about like Martin Scorsese and like Quentin Tarantino, and I totally respect those guys and their contributions to cinematic history and everything. But in Gamora's words, like they need to extract the sticks up their asses when they pan comic book movies, because they don't. I just don't think that these guys know what they're.
It's fine to not like comic book movies, like it's not your thing, whatever. But don't say that they're not real movies.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these guys were watching Zack Snyder DC movies.
It's quite possible,
and that's what they were basing it on.
Maybe, yeah.
Because Guardians and Winter Soldier before this.
And I will, playing devil's advocate, it's okay to like Zack Snyder movies. I personally mostly don't.
I like the Zack Snyder movie. Day of the Dead.
Yeah,
right?
or Dawn of the Dead. Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I don't like the ones that he has written and directed.
Fair point.
He's not a good.
Also, James Gunn wrote Day of the Dead, didn't he?
Dawn of the Dead. Yes.
Dawn of the Dead. I keep saying Day of the Dead.
That's all right. Easy to confuse.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, I think I'll probably end up comparing some Rebel Moon stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy since it's so fresh. But it's not. It might not be so favorable to. It won't be favorable to Rebel Moon.
All right.
Anyway, but I loved Guardians.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did too.
I did, yes. So when it first came out, my firstborn was 4 months old, so I was pretty busy. But I didn't have to wait too long to see it because I was still making trips back and forth to Santa Barbara for work, and I saw it there on a work trip with my partner in crime, we'll say. I didn't really know what to expect. We had just had The Winter Soldier, which is relatively grounded in realism for the most part. It doesn't go too crazy. And then now we're getting this crazy space adventure. So I didn't even have expectations going in other than I had faith in James Gunn, and I've always had a ton of respect for that guy. His style is very much a visual feast, but he also does great character building and storytelling. So you get all of that here in huge amounts. But because his storytelling is so visual, I feel like the discussion here might be a little bit on the lean side because, I mean, we could sit here and try to describe everything that we saw in the movie, but that could get boring and long. So one more reason to have watched it, but we still have plenty to say about it. And then, just an upfront warning. I feel like I think you're a little too high on this movie. And I love it. It's a great movie, but my knee-jerk reaction is to take it down a peg. So apologies in advance.
No problem.
All right.
How do you feel about some of the accusations that like James Gunn hires all his friends and blah blah and all the roles and stuff?
I mean, it works, right?
I think he tells awesome stories. Bring them along.
Yeah, I mean,
They're doing a great job.
Yeah, it's not like he's only hiring white males to play every role, right? It's not like an exclusion thing. So if he has a team that he likes to work with and they make good stuff, I mean, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Let's see. All right, let's get to the credits here. Not the closing credits, but like who made the movie. Guardians of the Galaxy is the 10th movie in the MCU series, directed by James Gunn, as we mentioned. I like him a lot. We talked about the Dawn of the Dead remake. Another good movie of his is Slither. Have you seen that?
Ooh, yeah, I do. Yeah. I forgot about that. I love Slither.
That's a good one, yeah. Obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy and the Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. Yep. Pretty much anything he's written and directed is great. As just a writer, it can be hit or miss. He wrote Dawn of the Dead but didn't direct it. That's a great movie. And he wrote The Belko Experiment, and it's not terrible, but it was a little bit boring. I didn't love that one. As a producer only, I am wary of his name as just producer because of Brightburn. Have you seen that one?
I actually liked it. So.
It's not awful, but
right.
It's so like that one was his two of his brothers wrote that, and I don't know who directed it, but I don't know. It left something to be desired. It had a lot of potential that it didn't live up to, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
The screenplay is also by James Gunn, but also Nicole Perlman gets a writing credit. She had written something like 10 drafts, and then James Gunn came in and just rewrote the whole thing. but the WGA, what's that? The Writers Guild of America.
Yeah.
The rules for the WGA say that she gets a credit. It doesn't sound like anybody's mad about it. You know, she's like, hey, you know, I did a lot of work. I get a credit. James Gunn is like, yeah, she did a lot of work. She gets a credit. All right. The main characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, we have almost all new people here. We got Chris Pratt as Peter Quill / Star-Lord. He's kind of the main character. He's a human. They sometimes refer to humans as Terrans in this movie. Pratt plays Quill as a likable, arrogant jerk, similar to Tony Stark, but not that smart, I thought.
He's like a likable jock.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, kind of jock mentality. A lot of people don't like Chris Pratt, and I don't know why. I didn't like him when I first saw him in Parks and Rec, but he's a lot funnier in the later seasons. He was just kind of like he was kind of too much of a jerk in the first season. Thought he was great as as Emmett in the Lego movie, right? He's the voice of Emmett.
He was great, yeah. He was awesome.
I even liked him as the voice of Mario. I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't really like the Jurassic World movies, but it's not because of Chris Pratt. They're just not for me.
That whole series kind of has jumped the shark.
Yes, the prehistoric shark.
The prehistoric shark, right? The megalodon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I never really saw Chris Pratt in anything until Guardians of the Galaxy. I think I've been meaning to watch, what do you call it, Parks and Rec, but I just haven't gotten around.
Just start
to
on season 2. I couldn't get into.
Really?
I couldn't get into it, and somebody told me just skip the entire first season. Like I should go back and watch it, knowing now like what it becomes. But there's another character, I think his name is Jim or something, and I also didn't like that guy, and he's just gone in season 2. I don't know what happened. I didn't care. But we just dove in at season 2. It took a few episodes to kind of get your bearings at that point, but that's a good show. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean he was great in this. I liked him enough in. Yeah, I agree with you on the other stuff. Lego Movie was great as Mario. I liked him enough in that Tomorrow War thing. That was pretty good. I thought.
Oh yeah. War? That was all right.
Yep. Yeah. I see him all the time. Or that meme that popped up with the Kim Kardashian comeback joke.
I don't know that one.
You haven't seen that meme?
I don't think
send
so.
that to you. It's I think some of the characters are holding a panel and they're talking about comebacks, great comebacks in cinematic history.
Oh yes, I have seen that one. yes, that's a Parks and Rec outtake clip.
Yeah, I still laugh at that one whenever
that is
I
really
see
funny.
It.
Yes, that's a perfect example of his character in that show, though.
Yeah, I laugh every time I see that, even though I've seen it like 1,000 times by now. Every time it pops in my feed.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So I don't quite get why he has as much hate. I suspect it has something to do with I think the church or something. There's a church that he's affiliated.
Yeah, he's a little religious, but I don't see him going around preaching it. So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the part I don't. I guess that's what I don't get. And
right.
He's not throwing it in people's faces. So,
a couple last notes here on the character of Peter Quill. Glenn Howerton was the second choice for Peter Quill. I feel like that might have worked, but I think he's a little too, and not Glenn Howerton, but the character I'm used to seeing him play in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, little too assholey and psycho. But maybe he could have dialed it back for this. I don't know. And your favorite person in the world, Zachary Levi, was considered at one point.
Ooh, dodged a whiny ass bullet there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zoe Saldana's Gamora.
Mm-hmm.
One of Thanos' adopted daughters. I loved her in this.
Yeah, she's great. I love the character. To borrow a word from you, George, she's a badass.
She is.
Lupita Nyong'o was also considered for the role. She would have been good, but I also liked her just fine as her role in Black Panther.
Yeah.
Then we got Bradley Cooper as the voice of Rocket. Rocket's a genetically and cybernetically enhanced raccoon who's a genius, but he kind of talks like a knucklehead.
Yeah. Do you remember that time in Endgame when Rocket reminds Stark he's only a genius on Earth? Like, that to me is like kind of encapsulate like how smart he is, that people don't realize that he is this wicked, smart creature person thing.
Yeah.
Trash Panda.
It's a good one.
That was the first time I'd heard of Trash Panda. Yes. It cracks me up every time I hear
They
it.
might have made that up for all I know. This is a great voice performance. I never would have thought Bradley Cooper could have done this. I've gained a lot more respect for him too since this. He's not just the funny asshole in The Hangover. He's got a lot of range to him.
Yeah, I feel like I've liked him in all the other movies I've seen him in. The only role he's really kind of annoyed me in was when he was in Alias, where he was being this whiny simp following Jennifer Garner's character everywhere.
I didn't see that show.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of episodes and fell off for some reason.
And then there's Vin Diesel as the voice of Groot, the humanoid tree creature partner to Rocket. Looks like an ant, but a little bit smaller.
A little bit.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I really don't know why, but I just kind of dislike Vin Diesel for no reason sometimes. But the artist that created Baby Groot is a Filipino and a totally nice guy from everything that I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on Vin Diesel. I feel like the dislike is kind of earned. He is a bit of a jerk. He seems that way. Like he got some popularity and it just went to his head. But I do like him and stuff. And Groot is a great character. Granted, he's just doing the voice, but people give him shit because he recorded each I Am Groot line separately and got paid for that. But I feel like each line delivery is different and it means something different. And he wanted to know what it was supposed to mean. He was trying to put that meaning behind it with different intonation and inflection. So, I mean, like, I feel like he earned it, right? He wasn't just trying to milk it.
Yeah. I read somewhere that Vin Diesel was having a hard time dealing with Paul Walker's death right around this time, I think.
It was like right before I think Paul Walker died in like November of 2013. And then he recorded in like December of 2013. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've kind of, this role apparently really helped him get through all of that. So I've kind of softened that dislike, and it's more of an slight annoyance now since reading that fact.
Yeah. We have Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer. He's great. So is his character. I think he's probably my favorite character in this movie.
Really?
Maybe all the, yeah. I just love him. He's so like, it's kind of dumb, but hilarious and awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely not my favorite character of the Guardians, but I can get to that later.
Yeah, I'm curious what that is.
But I am a big fan of Batista.
Yeah,
I think he's awesome.
He's a great actor.
I would argue he's a better actor than The Rock.
I think he is too. He's got a lot more range. He's done certainly shown that he has more range. The Rock kind of is. It's kind of the same.
He's playing
character.
The Rock the entire time,
which I like.
In every movie.
I like him. He's great, but I'd agree that Batista is a better actor. Oh, I was curious how much makeup and prosthetics he had to put on every day, and it was only 4 hours to put it on and 90 minutes to get it off. I thought it would have been longer than that. That still sucks, but. The character of Drax is a Kylosian warrior bent on revenge because, well, we'll get into that later.
Well, Thanos did kill his wife.
Is it Thanos? I thought it was Ronan. Ronan killed his wife and daughter, right? But he works for Thanos.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
In the movie, yeah, I'm getting it in the comic books.
Oh, okay.
Thanos killed his wife.
All right,
I got it. Gotta stop switching back and forth.
That's all right. So Jason Momoa and Chadwick Boseman were both considered for the part of Drax. Jason Momoa, I could kind of see doing it.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they saved him for Black Panther, I guess I would say, because that was great. He was great in that, and R.I.P. that guy. He was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, mostly because I don't remember. He was definitely yoked in Black Panther, but he wasn't Dave Bautista's size.
No, he's muscular, but not huge.
Yeah. And if you're going to be called the Destroyer,
right,
you have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger size.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And then I guess the first big baddie, we've got Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser. He is a Kree extremist and war criminal working for Thanos.
Yeah, I think Lee Pace does a great job of playing a power-hungry yet petulant child of a character. Yeah. He was also considered for the role of Peter Quill, actually, Lee Pace. That's what he auditioned for originally.
Interesting. He ended up as a Ronin.
Yeah. Next, we have Michael Rooker as Yandu Udanta?
Udanta.
I don't know. I never hear him say his last name. You can't have a James Gunn movie without Michael Rooker. As you were saying, James Gunn likes to work with certain actors.
How would you not?
That's not a complaint. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, Michael Rooker is great. Yandu is a blue humanoid with like this metal mohawk, and he's the leader of one of the Ravager groups in the movie.
He like kills it as Yondu.
Yeah.
I don't know what other stuff he's done that I feel like he hasn't killed it, but man, like when he dies in Guardians of the Galaxy in 2, like I think I damn near teared up. As spoiler alert, but you should have known that by now.
Yeah.
But when he dies in Guardians 2, I think I damn near teared up. Like
I definitely did.
Which I feel like it says a lot considering he's introduced to us as like this jerky stepfather.
He looks like he's kind of a bad guy at first.
Yeah, right. And he's got like the sharp teeth and everything, and he's
Yeah.
he's like the leader of the Ravagers. He kidnapped Peter Quill to begin with, right?
Yep.
And then like he just grows on you, and
Yeah.
then you just love him by the time he dies. The other character I really liked him as that has a similar story arc was Merle in Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I sometimes forget about that, but he's getting started out as a huge dick, and by the time he dies, totally grew on me.
I gotta admit, the only thing I remember about Merle was like he maybe was dead at the end of the first episode. Like, didn't he like have to saw off his hand or something? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Yeah.
No, he sawed off his hand.
He comes back later.
Yep.
And he becomes a good guy? Because I remember him being like super kind of Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just had like this interesting story arc. Yeah, now I'm trying to go like, am I getting him confused with another character? But I'm pretty sure he redeemed himself.
Yeah,
toward,
I mean,
like,
you're probably right.
ended.
I don't tend to store that kind of information for long.
Yeah. And then we have Karen Gillan as
I
Nebula.
thought it was Gillian, but I don't know.
As Nebula, the stepsister of Gamora, and a pretty cool character in her own right, and also this another adopted daughter of Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
I think to use your word, another petulant child. I don't think I remember her in anything except for Jumanji, where she was with The Rock actually also. And I don't think that came after this.
This is
so I don't think I've ever known her in
pretty
anything.
far after this, I think. But
Yeah.
I saw her in one of the Doctor Who seasons, and I think there was a horror movie called Oculus. I think that she was in.
Oh,
it was okay, like a haunted mirror.
Of course.
And we have
the best kinds of mirrors.
I mean, aren't all mirrors haunted? We have Jimon Unsu as Korath. I like this guy. He's not always in good movies, but he's always good in movies.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Korath is another Kree who works for Ronin.
He's definitely playing it up in all the superhero movies recently. He's also the wizard in Shazam.
Oh yeah.
I guess he dies in this movie, but like, don't worry, he shows up again in Captain Marvel and much younger.
Oh yeah,
Captain Marvel.
Right, because it's like set in the 80s or something, right?
Yeah. And then well, not a bad guy, but John C. Reilly is in this movie.
Yep.
Was he Roman Day?
Yeah, that's his name.
Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
A high-ranking Nova Corps member on Xandar.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like John C. Reilly? That guy's great. He's,
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like a super goofy role for like that he usually does.
Right.
But I like him. He's he's a very sincere character.
Yeah, every time he and Chris Pratt were on the scene, I was kind of half expecting him to say, "Did we just become best friends?"
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched Step Brothers yet, what are you even doing with your life?
That's a great movie. I got to rewatch that one. I think I've seen it maybe twice, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. So that's a good movie.
Okay.
I want to start talking about it too much because we'll just quote it for the rest of the episode.
Right.
They get Clint. Totally butchered that. We got Glenn Close as Irani Rail, also known as Nova Prime. This is another good get. It's not quite as big a deal as when they got Robert Redford and the Winter Soldier, but I still think that's, she's a big deal. Nova Prime is the leader of the Nova Corps on Xandar. And to be honest, until I read the Wikipedia, I thought her name was Nova Prime. But I guess that's her. I guess that's her rank.
That's what they called her. The
Yeah,
entire movie.
yeah.
So.
Like, so I don't. That's why I'm like, I don't know how. In the Wikipedia, it says that her name is Irani Rael. Like, I don't know. Did anybody ever call her that once? Did she have a name tag? Like, hello, my name is.
I didn't see it if there was. I just maybe it was the type of stars that they had on their uniform. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
And then Josh Brolin takes over as Thanos.
Yes. Benicio del Toro returns as Tanelier Tivan, also known as the Collector. I think that's all they refer to him as. Oh, no, somebody calls him Tivan, I think, at one point, or Tanelier maybe.
Actually, my favorite role that Benicio del Toro has been in is his character in Sicario.
Yeah.
You're right. I actually am not a fan of him as the Collector because I feel like he overplays it.
Okay.
He just kind of overdoes. He goes over the top with how he plays him, and something was rubbing me the wrong way. But I did love him. I do love him in like Sicario and the more serious stuff that he does.
Okay. Because so it's like for the listener, George wrote that his favorite roles of Benicio del Toro are in Sicario and in this as Tivan. Yeah. And I was like, I thought you hated him. You literally said, I'm not a fan of Benicio del Toro in these wacky ass roles.
Right. I was like, wait a minute. What did I write that?
Yeah. In the Thor 2 episode. Yeah.
Right.
I was confused.
Good catch.
Shout out to Sean Gunn, brother of James Gunn, who plays Kraglin, which is Yondu's kind of number 2 sidekick guy, whatever, like his go-to man. Yep. He also stood in for Thanos and stood in or knelt in, I guess, for Rocket during filming.
I saw clips of him in that. Did you catch Nathan Fillion?
Do you see the shirt? Do you see the shirt that I'm wearing? Do you see what ship this is? It's a Firefly class.
I can't see it. Yeah. I was like, it took me a second. I was like, is that the Firefly?
It's kind of faded. The shirt's getting old, but yeah. It's the Serenity. How dare you accuse me of not seeing Nathan Fillion? This is main characters, and Nathan Fillion has a cameo, and he's in the notes.
Okay, just checking.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you were looking out for Nathan Fillion.
I mean, Nathan Fillion and Bruce Campbell should always be called out in any role that they're in.
Yes. Okay, let's get to the main discussion. So we start on Earth. It's 1988. Thank you for starting at the beginning, James Gunn. They could have easily started this in the next scene on Morag and done a flashback to like when Yondu calls Quill about the orb. They didn't do all that. They just started at the beginning. That's great. We get little Peter Quill. He's about 8 years old, and he's at his mom's bedside in the hospital. She's dying of brain cancer, and she gives him a present.
Did you catch his mom calling his dad an angel composed out of pure light? I thought that was pretty neat as such a tease to the coming of Ego, Peter's father in the MCU, aka what's his name again? Russell.
Kurt Russell. Yeah.
Kurt Russell. I would say Russell Peters. Totally wrong, Russell. And then his mom asking Peter to take her hand. Man, that was such a heartbreaking scene.
It's
then
rough.
him not, and then she died. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then his grandfather tells him, stay put, but he runs outside only to be kidnapped. And then boom.
Kidnapped by aliens, yeah.
Kidnapped by aliens, no less, right?
Yep.
And then just boom, Peter Quill's emotional origin story in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it brought a tear to my eye. I was touched by it, for sure. Yeah, so his mom dies, he gets abducted by an alien spaceship, and this kid is having a shit day.
But like, man, just storytelling mic drop right there.
Yeah.
It's just, Zack Snyder, if you're listening, call up your old buddy. Get some advice on storytelling not dependent on special effects. Also, rewatch this movie again for prime examples of how to properly use slow motion.
Yeah.
And then also note, there is no director's cut for any of the Guardians movies. Since James Gunn gets it right.
It's already the director's cut. Yeah.
Yeah, I never understood this director's cut. When did this director's cut crap start coming up?
I don't know, when a bunch of maniacs decided to sign a petition to have Zack Snyder release his director's cut.
Was this really the only like the Justice League? Was that the first time director's cuts became a thing?
No, I mean, there's always been director's cuts for like, Jesus, how many cuts are there of Blade Runner?
Right.
There's more than one of Aliens, right? But I feel like Ridley Scott is a little more deserving of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But whatever.
My bad. Sorry. I didn't mean to
No problem.
go down a rabbit hole.
So after that opening scene, that's when we get the Marvel Studios fanfare with the with the logo and everything. I'm pretty sure that's the first time that happens, where you get some movie before the Marvel logo. Not that that's important. I just noticed these things.
Yeah. And then 26 years later, from Peter Quill getting kidnapped, you get this lone spaceman with glowing red eyes coming from this interesting helmet that he has on his head, where I guess which is where all helmets are, and
Yes.
making his way through the ruins but like these ruins with this cool high tech gadgets, which he puts away
Mm-hmm.
in favor of his Sony Walkman, and that totally caught me.
This is on
And then-
on Planet Morag, by the way. I think you
On
skipped
Planet
that.
Morag, yeah. But yeah, once "Come and Get Your Love" started playing, totally caught me off guard. But man, what a great song!
Yeah. 26 years later, and the tape still works, though. That's probably the most unrealistic thing about this superhero space movie.
Cause cassettes work with magnet, like too much exposure to like magnets and just
Well, just like if
Use,
he's
right?
listening to it over and over and over again, that tape's gonna wear out.
yeah.
I've definitely had that happen. I'm old enough to, so were you,
So am I.
to have had that happen. Yeah.
But maybe it works better in space, or less
Yeah,
less
maybe.
friction in space.
I don't know.
But yeah, just another fucking awesome intro. This time to just adult Peter Quill.
Mhm.
It's just, I loved it. Fun fact: prior to Endgame, I couldn't really watch this scene without smiling, and now I can't watch it without cracking up
Oh.
because I think about how Rhodey's gonna clock him
Yeah.
in the middle of the song.
Yep. That's great. I love how they tie everything back in Endgame.
Right.
So good. What I noticed immediately was great effects in this movie. That's so good. Like
Yeah.
everything looks great. And this whole scene kind of gave me like Raiders of the Lost Ark vibes a bit, where he's trying to find this orb. Yeah, so Quill is there on Morag looking for an orb in some ancient temple. Just as he gets the orb, Korath, played by Jimon Ansu, shows up with 2 Sakaran soldiers as backup, and Korath asks Quill how he knew about the orb and why is he wearing Ravager garb. Then he says that Ronan may have questions for you. So we're getting all kinds of information right away.
I love how like the dust up is just Peter Quill being just like this irreverent, I don't respect authority type guy. Like he's just saying like
Ninja Turtle, you better stop poking me.
Yeah.
that line cracked me up.
Yep.
And the whole another name you might know me by is like Star-Lord, and
Nobody's heard
getting
of him.
the Who thing back. Yeah,
Yep.
it's just so great. Then Peter being chased by Korath, he tosses that like super useful super magnet triangle thing, and it just collapses all those guys together into like a group. And
That was pretty cool, yeah.
I love that. Like he just has all these gadgets, right?
Mhm.
And then right when he's about to escape and his ship, he just looks like he's about to escape, and he's like laughing at them through his cockpit. And then his ship gets hit by a plume of water, and I just love these random plot hiccups that give you an appreciation for Peter Quill's like personality.
It's very Indiana Jones like,
Yeah.
Yeah, because like things keep happening, and he works with it.
Yep.
He does manage to escape with the orb, but he gets a Skype call from Yondu, who's pissed because he's on Morag and the orb is gone, and so is Peter. Yondu puts a bounty on him alive, 40K, and I was like, what are the units on that? And it turns out that it's units.
Units are units.
We find that out later. Then we go to the Kree warship, the Dark Aster. I really like the design of this. It's like a like if you had a stack of squares and twisted it in the middle, and turned it on its side. It's cool.
You saw it twist sometimes too while it was flying. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
So this is Ronan's ship, and he's the head bad guy for this movie. Korath shows up and tells Ronan that Star-Lord got the orb. Obviously, Ronan is pissed about that. He had promised Thanos he'd get the orb for him, and in exchange, Thanos would destroy Xandar for Ronan. There was something about how allegedly the Xandarians took the lives of Ronan's father, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather, and so he wants revenge for that, apparently. Then Ronan tells Nebula to retrieve the orb, and Gamora talks him into sending her instead, and then sibling rivalry intensifies. Now we go to planet Xandar, which is a lot like Earth, and the Xandarians are basically human. Rocket the Raccoon and Groot are there. They're looking for Peter Quill to get that 40,000 units bounty. That's where we find out that it's units.
And apparently Rocket thinks that 40,000 units is a ton of money.
It might be. I don't know. That could be like Bitcoin, right? Who knows?
Right. It's like Rocket's commentary is just fucking hilarious everywhere.
Yes. Peter Quill is there to speak with a character just known as the Broker. He's speaking with him about selling him the orb. At the mention of having to outrun Ronan's goons, though, the Broker kind of freaks out and kicks Quill out. He doesn't want anything to do with anything Ronan related. Gamora is there waiting outside. She grabs the orb and runs for it. And this gives us a good chase/fight between them, and then also with Rocket and Groot.
She's like clearly the better fighter. He's also a good fighter, but he just has cool gadgets too on top of it. Yeah, and this whole scene was basically a hilarious introduction to 4 of the 5 Guardians meeting up with each other and already like fighting amongst themselves.
I'd kind of forgotten that Drax doesn't come in until later.
Yeah. I like the when Rocket just enjoying some of the punishment he can do with when he shoots Quill, and then he's just doing that whole ride.
It's kind of like a taser thing he shoots him with. Yeah.
And then so then Groot catches Quill, and then the Nova Corps land and capture all of them.
Right. So then we go to Nova headquarters. And as each of them as prisoners are processed, we get a little bit of exposition about them, courtesy of Roman Day.
This part actually cracks me up because John C. Reilly is basically reviewing the rap sheets and the stats of the individual Guardians.
Yeah.
And to me, so this is like, I think this is an awesome way to tell backstory, which I get it doesn't work everywhere.
Yeah.
But I had also just seen the last Rebel Moon movie. And in Rebel Moon, I shit you not, man. There is a scene where the fighters, basically, they are sitting around a table, and actually, Digimon Honsu, he's like the general there. And so the general's like, it's like he realizes nobody gives a shit about any of the characters in the movie. And he's like, and he literally declares, we're about to go into battle. We should be truthful with each other, and we should tell each other. We should talk about what we're doing here. And literally they go around the table telling their backstory. And it's like 2 movies in, and you don't care about these guys already. But like,
it's like in this movie, he realized that they forgot to explain that in the first movie.
Right, in all the movies. Like in like the first movie when they all met and they're about to go to this major battle, and he's like, hey, we should give people a reason to care about us. And they do this backstory for each of them.
That's pretty bad.
It's really bad.
I do like how it is done here. But it is just literally telling backstory, but it works in this case, It's not gonna work more than once.
Did you know that Chris Pratt scene where he's improvising the middle finger? He totally improvised that.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was improvised, but that makes sense. I feel like that would have been weird to script that.
That whole scene works. And then when Daenerys Sal just goes, what a bunch of a-holes, it's like perfect.
Yes. I think that's arguably funnier than saying assholes, but I don't really know why. It's like, I'm not like offended by dirty words or whatever, but just the way he says,
what a bunch of a-holes.
Well, really funny. It's like, because Daenerys Sal, he's like one of those higher ranking proper fellows.
He's very much like, my shit don't stink.
Right.
Yeah.
So when he says a-holes, it just seems way funnier.
Yeah. Daenerys Sal is played by Peter Serafinowicz, who's great. He's also in Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if he's
the other boyfriend, right?
No, that's who is that guy? Oh man, I'm gonna get off on a tangent now. I gotta set that aside. He's the other roommate.
He's the roommate.
He's the roommate.
You're right. Oh,
and he's like, and the front door is open again. Oi,
that's
prick.
right. That's right.
Yeah. So if we mention Shaun of the Dead one more time, that's 3 times, and I think that means we have to cover it.
Oh man, I do love Shaun of the Dead though.
Yeah.
But does that count?
It's got to be a different episode, I think. It's got to come up organically.
Got it.
So all 4 of them get sent to the kiln, which is spelled like Kyln, and autocorrect kept changing it to Kyle, which was annoying. The kiln is basically Space Rikers Island. It's a really bad prison. There's lots of talk amongst the 4 of them, and it kind of sounds like idle chit-chat, but it establishes some character building and plot things. It's another good backstory trick, like you were just saying.
Yep.
Rocket doesn't know what a raccoon is, even though he is one. We learn that Groot only says, "I am Groot."
Until this rewatch, I didn't realize that Quill couldn't understand Groot during most of this movie.
Yeah, I
Like, I think by Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he totally understands him.
I think I forgot that he does understand him later on.
Yeah.
But it makes sense why he wouldn't now. I think it's just funny that Rocket definitely understands him.
Yeah.
They work it in well. Anyways, we also learn Thanos is a genocidal maniac. Quill's tape player is very meaningful to him. And most importantly, we learn that Gamora wasn't retrieving the orb for Ronan. She was going to betray him. She had an agreement to sell it to a third party. So they all get processed, which includes being hosed down with some weird red-orange fluid and given these pretty cool jumpsuits. I thought, would make a good Halloween costume.
I do like just before they get the yellow jumpsuits, I like how Quill got beat down to Hooked on a Feeling. The red-orange fluid thing was a good excuse to show off the hard MCU bod that he had worked on.
Yes. Yeah, man. He had a really impressive transformation with his physique. He was pretty doughy in Parks and Rec.
Way more doughy than.
Yeah, he's pretty doughy.
Oh well. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess in those memes he is a little chunkier.
Yeah.
We also get to see some of the lacerations and metal prosthetics attached to Rocket. This time around, I definitely felt more sorry for him, and you can see actually Quill's sympathy when he actually stares at his back for a little bit. I didn't catch that the first time.
It's more. I feel like it's more obvious now that I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and you know what happened to him. So
yeah, it's pretty neat.
Stay tuned for that. It also turns out that Gamora is pretty well known at the kiln in the worst way. Everybody wants to kill her, but she maintains a brave face. And then we get the Nathan Fillion cameo. He's voicing an unnamed monstrous alien inmate that starts threatening Peter Quill.
Check out the new meat. I'm gonna slather you up into Navi and jelly. Go to town.
Yeah, this whole check out the new meat scene, man, cracked me up.
Yes.
I really had no idea the first time around until I just could not place his voice.
Yeah, he's got a voice changer or something. But
yeah. I just thought it was so hilarious, this whole tough inmate scene, and then it's a pretty awesome space version of establishing the Alpha.
Yeah. I wish they could have found a way to get him on screen though, Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth the wait for him in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where he does get some on-screen time. So I don't think it would have worked well if they tried to use him again later, on screen.
Yeah, I just had a flashback of him as the detachable man, or the detachable arm man in the Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, I forgot
that cracked.
Right, yes.
That cracked me up.
Yeah, nice little cameo in there. That was great.
Yeah.
So this big tough inmate comes in, starts threatening Quill, and Groot sticks some of his branch fingers up this guy's nose, and then Rocket threatens everyone.
Let's make something clear. This one here's our booty. You want to get to him, you go through us. Or, more accurately, we go through you.
So then everybody goes to their cells, and we pull focus on Drax the Destroyer staring at Gamora's cell from the common area down below.
And in the night, Gamora gets taken away to the showers by a few prisoners so that they can get their revenge. And this is actually one of my nitpicks. There's just no way that Gamora would have let those 4 chumps take her hostage the way that they did, because they were clearly not as good fighters as she was, even with the knives at her throat.
No, but maybe she figured they were going to take her somewhere kind of isolated, and then she's only up against 4 people instead of, everybody else.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah,
She seems pretty sharp.
that's true.
So Drax steps in and stops the other inmates, but it's because he wants to kill Gamora himself.
Do you know who I am? And the guy's going, "You're Drax, the destroyer." And you can tell the guy's really scared of him.
Uh-huh.
And I guess like with a name like that, it'd be really good to know why. But this also still goes into my things I'd improve section for later.
I'm really curious. You better land this thing.
Oh, okay.
So Drax talks about how Ronan killed his wife and his daughter, and because Ronan killed his family, he shall kill one of Ronan's in return. Side note, Drax is called the Destroyer because he's slain dozens of Ronan's minions. But because Gamora's fucking awesome, she uses the distraction of Drax showing up to disarm the two goons who are restraining her, and then she holds their makeshift knives, or shivs, up to the throats of Drax and the last standing goon. She tells them she's no family to Ronan or Thanos, and then she drops the knives and says, "I'm your only hope at stopping him." Drax still wants to kill her, but Peter talks him into a better deal. Peter tells Drax Ronan is coming for her because she betrayed him. So when he does, and he does like the finger across the throat gesture. And Drax says, "Why would I put my finger on his throat?" And I think that's a really funny introduction to Drax.
He's coming back for her. And when he does, that's when you...
Why would I put my finger on his throat?
What?
Drax takes everything literally, which is partly why I like him so much.
Yeah, this whole scene cracks me up, especially like the alien where Peter Quill looks like everybody knows what this is, and then the alien on the side like nods his head, totally acknowledging he's heard of it, and then when Drax looks at him, he's just like shaking his head, totally disavowing that.
It's a general expression for you killing somebody. You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
No.
He even said, he's like, no.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice that until I was trying to check something else out around the scene, because as I was trying to tighten up the notes a little bit, and I got to that part, and I saw like in the because I watch with subtitles on because I'm old, but I saw the no, and I was like, what? And I'd never caught that before. That the guy, he's like, yeah, no.
Like just actively disavowing that he
Yes.
agreed with him. Yeah.
That's good. That's a nice touch. It's the first MCU movie to really lean into the comedy. I mean, you get a little bit of it in Thor, but I feel like they...
I think so. Like, I think the other ones just had like little moments here and there.
Yeah. A chuckle now and then, but this one's pretty funny all the way through.
Yeah. Which is like hard, like given what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to stop Thanos from or stop Ronan from destroying a whole planet.
Right.
Being able to weave humor in there is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Peter also needs Gamora to sell the orb, but that is also her opportunity to get away from Thanos and Ronan. So they hatch a plan. The plan is to escape, sell the orb, and split the profits. And the profits are way more than the bounty on Quill's head, so Rocket and Groot are also in. And I kind of wonder, though, if Rocket and Groot ever planned to stab Quill in the back on this. Like, once they got the orb money, maybe they would try to turn him in for another 40,000 units, right?
I think Rocket totally would have.
Yeah,
and then
right.
Gamora too. All of them probably would have turned on him right away.
Right. So, and then I was thinking, why do they really trust Gamora and Peter and vice versa? Or is everybody just kind of going along with it for now, just because they're getting a plan together to escape and then, decide what to do after that?
I would say that they're trying to go along with it for now and then find an opportunity to escape with it and collect the bounty for themselves if they can. But for now, they're going with it because he has the orb.
Right. Back on the Dark Aster, Ronan is FaceTiming the Other. Remember that guy from Avengers?
Yep.
The Other tells Ronan he was betrayed by Gamora. The Other has insiders at the kiln who heard everything. Then he tells Ronan to report to Thanos ASAP. They all meet up in a place called Sanctuary, which is some weird stepped terrain that's in Chitauri space. I had to look that up. I didn't know what it was. Ronan places blame on Gamora. The Other isn't having it, but Thanos is chill and remains pretty chill when Ronan snaps the Other's neck with a concussive blast from his Kree Warhammer, also known as the Universal Weapon.
Is that what it was? I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know. To me, I was kind of like, what the hell just happened? Like, Ronin's hammer, I guess, has the same powers as Princess Diana's bracelets with
Oh
Wonder
yeah.
Woman. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what? Or like it just like farts in his direction, and then his neck splits, and he's dead. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
It was
like,
weird. It was a little weird. Cause
right?
he didn't even, he hardly did anything. It was just like boop. And like this weird, it looked like a sonic boom or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of annoyed me because like didn't this other guy have like super speed in the Avengers? Like
I
he
don't
ran
remember.
from like one point to another really fast.
Did he? I don't remember running at
Yeah.
all.
And then like Loki was kind of scared of this guy too. So
Yeah.
part of me was like,
Yes.
well, this guy. I mean, either Ronan is just ridiculously strong, or this guy was, yeah. But
Yeah.
I wish we could have had a chance to see how Ronan kind of wielded his hammer more in battle,
Yeah.
but he didn't really do too much with it in the movie.
He just fart breaks people's
Right.
necks.
And then Thanos finally speaks, and damn, I thought Josh Brolin's voice was on point.
It's
as
pretty
Thanos.
good. He's got a good voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanos calls Ronan a pouty child, and he hates Ronan's politics. He blames Ronan for he blames Ronan for alienating his favorite daughter Gamora, which bums out Nebula, who's right there in the room.
Right.
Then Thanos gives Ronan one chance to bring in the orb, or he will quote unquote bathe the stairways with his blood.
I thought it was Starways.
You're right. Bathe the starways with his blood. I think, yeah. See, thanks a lot for the grammar suggestion. Ronan and Nebula. Then Ronan and Nebula head out to the kiln. At the kiln, Rocket hatches the escape plan, and then they carry out the plan.
And another freaking great scene. This one showcases what a technopath Rocket is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his plan, good God, like I love how thorough it is and how not thorough it is. Like it all goes to shit because he's explaining the plan, and then Groot is in the background. All Groot heard was, "I need the battery, and I need that battery over
Yes,
there." And then
yes.
Groot's just kind of walking over, and he rips the battery out right around the time when Rocket gets to the part where he's saying that it has to be obtained last because
Right.
everything goes into lockdown.
Yeah, this is a great scene. The entire escape sequence is great, but it's one of those things that's not going to translate to us describing
Us
it.
talking about it, yeah.
So suffice it to say, it's exciting and funny, intense, and maybe we can just talk about a couple of the highlights in this part.
Yeah, like Drax beats all the guards down, and it makes you kind of wonder what the hell was he even doing in the prison, and how they even get him in there.
Yeah. I also like how joyous he is while he's fighting. Like he's having the best time.
And then when Drax takes one of the guns and then tosses it to Rocket, and then he does that very well earned
Yeah.
and then like cocking of the gun, and then he and Groot just go to war.
Yep.
That was like really good.
Yeah, because up until that point, you don't really see how tough they can actually be. I mean, they actually, obviously Rocket talks tough, but
Right. And then the funny banter where Drax gets mad that Peter Quill called him a thesaurus.
oh yeah,
And
Cease your yammering and relieve us from this irksome confinement.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with the walking thesaurus on that one.
Do not ever call me a thesaurus.
It's just a metaphor, dude.
His people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
I'm gonna die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy.
I love that.
that whole back and forth, man, it's just so funny. And
Yeah.
then Gamora finishing it off with, "I'm going to die surrounded by the biggest idiots in the galaxy."
Yeah.
I like cracked up so hard when she said that.
Yeah, good scene, good dialogue, funny stuff happening.
Yeah.
The five of them managed to escape. That'd be Rocket, Groot, Gamora, Peter, and Drax. And they have the orb. They have Peter's Walkman, and they have Peter's ship, the Milano. Which I thought was kind of weird that the ship also got sent to the kiln, but I can forgive that.
Did you know that James Gunn confirmed that the Milano was actually named after Alyssa Milano?
No, I didn't know that. I thought maybe the cookie.
I don't know. Yeah, Alyssa Milano. Well, I guess like Peter had a crush on when he was younger or something.
Oh, really? That's funny.
But yeah, they break out naturally is set to the Escape song, aka the Pina Colada song.
I did see in some of the behind the scenes stuff that Chris Pratt cannot listen to that song anymore. It's just
Really?
like, yeah.
Because of this?
Yeah, he heard it too many times during the filming. So,
Oh wow. This whole scene was so well written and executed just so well without even trying. Like you kind of get you kind of see all of them in prime Guardians of the Galaxy action, right? They all they just work as a team, which to me sorry, I keep jumping back and forth with the Rebel Moon stuff.
tell us more.
It's just like you don't get that with Rebel. Like you just I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get how somebody pulls the best parts of all these different movies and then mashes it together into like this craptastic turd movie.
It makes it not work.
Yeah, like these characters you have, like they're supposed to be badasses and they have these great fight scenes, but like there's nothing team-ish about any of about the whole gang.
Yeah, so they all escape. They head to meet up with Gamora's buyer. And during the trip, Rocket builds a weapon in case things get really hardcore, as he says.
He builds a weapon ripping out parts of his ship.
Yes. And then we see that Peter still has the present that his mom gave him and that it's unopened. Ronan and company show up at the kiln, but they're obviously too late. They torture the guards for some info, but quickly cut out because the Nova Corps has sent a fleet to defend the prison. They don't want to deal with the Nova Corps. Ronan wants to send Necrocraft to every corner of the quadrant. He says,
Find the orb. Any means, any price.
And this place.
No, but can't know what we're after. Cleanse it.
and by cleanse, I'm pretty sure he means kill everybody.
Yep.
Back at the brokers on Xandar, Yondu is there and he questions the broker about the orb. What is it? Who wants to buy it? And we see Yondu has this whistle-controlled arrow thingy that he threatens the broker with. Presumably, the broker gives Yondu some intel because Yondu shows up later on where Quill is at. Back on the Milano, they're approaching a place called Nowhere. It's Knowhere, which is another fun one for autocorrect.
Yeah, Nowhere looks amazing. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but I just thought that was such an awesome design. And the whole thing being built out of the head of a Celestial really, I think, kind of puts more perspective into the Celestials from the Eternals, which
Yeah.
I'm really sad that movie didn't do better. But yeah,
I like that. I thought it was a decent movie, but yeah,
I thought it was
didn't
great.
do well. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it looked awesome. I mean, every set, all the effects in this movie look really, really good. Nowhere is a mining colony. Organic materials in the skull are highly valued materials in black markets across the galaxy. It's dangerous, illegal work suitable only for outlaws. The buyer's representative is supposed to meet them at one of the gambling establishments here.
yeah. And then on Nowhere, a number of things happen. Drax and Groot and Rocket decide to go for drinks and bet on, I guess, their little animals called Orlones, and they're getting pretty drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And then, while that's happening, they're waiting for the buyer to get back to them, and Quill and Gamora have a moment.
Mm-hmm. And she tells Peter how Thanos killed her parents and turned her into a weapon, and she can't abide Thanos destroying Xandar for Ronan. Then Quill tells her about his mom.
Yeah, I love that he tries to put the moves on her, and he's telling her about the legend of Footloose.
Yes.
Well, on my planet, there's a legend about people like you. It's called Footloose. And in it, a great hero named Kevin Bacon. He teaches an entire city full of people with sticks up their butts that dancing, well, it's the greatest thing there is.
Who put the sticks up their butts?
What? No, that's just
That is cruel.
just a phrase people use.
He gets her to dance a little bit with her listening to his Walkman, and they almost kiss, but at the last second, she pulls a knife on him and says,
No! No! What the hell?
I know who you are, Peter Quill, and I am not some starry-eyed waif here to succumb to your pelvic sorcery.
That is not what is happening.
Drax, Groot, and Rocket start fighting because they're drunk. Quill diffuses the situation, and Drax wanders off. Then the buyer is ready to see them, and it turns out that the buyer is the collector. So you kind of called it, George, when you were like, at the end of Thor 2, they brought the space stone to the collector. And you're like, well, once he has one.
Oh, about him. Yeah, about him wanting the others. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But to be fair, you've also seen all the movies before, so. I do like Benicio del Toro here, but I feel like he's channeling Jermaine Clement, the Flight of the Conchords guy.
Oh.
Yeah. And I've actually, that guy might have been a better fit, actually.
Yeah.
Did you catch Cosmo, the telepathic Soviet space dog in the space case?
I did. Yeah.
I like that. I didn't realize he was in this, or she was in this, but you get a lot of her in Volume 3. The collector tells them about the 6 singularities before creation itself, which are the Infinity Stones. So I guess he also saw Thor 2.
Right.
The stones can only be wielded by beings of extraordinary strength, and kind of hinting that it's celestials pretty much. We learn that inside the orb is the Power Stone.
I think he shows one of the Celestials using the Power Stone to just wipe out a whole planet.
Yeah. Also important for later, he says once a group was able to share the energy for a moment, but even they were destroyed.
And then I guess Rocket was just like, yeah, nice story. Pay us.
Yeah.
And then the Karina, the I guess his slave or servant, stupidly decides to show us what happens when a puny Hume holds an Infinity Stone with their bare hands, and yeah,
it doesn't go well. There's purple fire explosions everywhere. She's obviously dead, and there's all kinds of damage. But right before she grabbed it, she says, "I will no longer be your slave." And I'm not sure, was she trying to kill herself, or was she trying to like get the power? Like thought maybe she'd be powerful enough to break away from him.
I thought she was trying to get the power.
Or maybe she was just rolling the dice, and either way, she's not a slave anymore.
Yeah, I thought she was just trying to get the power.
Yeah.
When I saw it, yeah.
I thought it was more of a suicide, but maybe I'm darker. So everything blows up. Gamora closes the orb with the Power Stone in it, and then she runs out with that.
Man, like even through all this chaos, they find a way to like insert in like some funny comments, like Rocket making a comment about Quill's purse, and then like Quill getting really pissed off and calling it a knapsack. Like,
oh yeah.
I can't believe you had that in your purse. It's not a purse, it's a knapsack.
You have to bring this to the Nova Corps. There's a chance they can contain it.
Yeah, you got to keep the comedy going.
Yeah.
Gamora wants to bring the orb and the stone to the Nova Corps with the hopes that they can contain it. She says it cannot fall into Ronan's hands. And I feel like this is a good character building moment. She's doing the right thing. That's more important than getting money for it.
Yeah.
But it turns out that drunk Drax went and sent a message to Ronan to come and get him so that he could try to kill him. And then Yondu and the Ravagers also show up, presumably because the broker had suggested the collector might be the buyer.
And right around now is when Drax gets his ass handed to him by Ronan, who doesn't even break a sweat at all.
No, he throws him into a tank of spinal fluid or something.
Yeah.
Gamora takes off of the orb in this mining pod, which is only meant for one person. And Nebula chases after her. And we get, overall pretty cool space chase. I think it drags on a little bit, in my opinion. But for the most part, it's cool.
Yes, yeah, it went on a little bit too long, but I don't know. I still liked it. The scene where Quill was using his mining pod to steer one of the Necrocraft.
Yes,
that kind of cracked me up.
It was interesting for sure. It was cool.
Yeah, those are the same mining pods they use in Guardians 2. Did you?
Is it? I feel like I haven't seen Guardians 2 enough.
We'll see it soon.
I forget quite a bit of it. Nebula blows up Gamora's pod and gets the orb. Quill ends up saving Gamora with his helmet. For a minute, it looks like he maybe have potentially sacrificed himself, but in the end, he turns out to be okay because he's actually half a god. But that's not explained until the end of this movie, and it's only kind of half explained, really. And we get a lot more of that in Volume 2.
Is him being half a god why he didn't die in space? Because I thought he was pretty much close to being dead, and he was banking on.
I think that's what you're led to believe, but I think that him being half a god was also really why.
Because yeah, this scene was kind of a nitpick to me. Because like Rocket was telling Quill, "Get back into your pod, or you're gonna die." But I was like, why didn't he just grab Gamora, put her in the pod because she was already starting to freeze up from thing, and then stay outside with his helmet because he already had the helmet on.
I would. I mean, if you're gonna make me be a nerd about it, I would presume that the helmet isn't like 100% space proof, right? And also like the rest of his body is still exposed to outer space, so I don't think he would last that long with the helmet on.
That's right. His hair was sticking out, right? It doesn't actually cover his full.
Yeah, it doesn't cover his full head, and he's a lot of him is still just exposed to the elements, I guess you would call it. So Quill had given Yondu his coordinates, or Quill gives Yondu his coordinates right before he puts the helmet on Gamora, and then he starts to freeze in space, and then Yondu shows up and brings them both aboard his ship with like a tractor beam thing. And then Peter and Gamora both seem pretty okay almost immediately, so that's like a little bit of a nitpick. They're like not even frostbitten or whatever. They seem fine. And there's another touching moment, kinda, and then it gets funny.
Quill. What happened?
I saw you up there. I don't know what came over me, but I couldn't let you die. I found something inside of myself. Something incredibly heroic. I mean, not to brag, but objectively.
Where's the orb?
Well, they got the orb.
What?
Back inside of nowhere, Groot ends up saving Drax, getting him out of the tank of spinal fluid. Rocket is understandably pissed at Drax and wants to get as far away as possible from Ronan. Groot wants to save their friends, and I'm like, oh, they're friends. And Drax agrees to help.
Yeah, and Rocket just, because everybody's basically ganging up on him, and Rocket's like saying that whole scene where Rocket's kicking grass, and he's like, "You're making me beat up grass," and kicking grass because basically Groot and Drax agree that they need to go rescue their friends. Those are the kinds of scenes that make me like love this movie, and because like they're at their lowest point possible. Ronan has the Power Stone, the galaxy's on the brink, and they need to come together. Yeah, and they're doing it. It's predictable, but at the same time, it's how it happens is still really pretty awesome.
Yeah. So Ronan has a Zoom call with Thanos and says that the orb is in his possession.
And then Ronan tells Thanos to suck it after he pulls the Power Stone out and sticks it into his hammer. And I guess this definitely shows that Ronan is next level, since no one ordinary can even hold the stone.
Yeah, I mean, he's only holding it for a couple of seconds, but that didn't go too well for Karina or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
Ronan says now he can destroy Xandar himself, and then he's going to come for Thanos. And Nebula is there, and she says, if you kill him, I will help you destroy 1,000 planets. And it's a good thing that they had already hung up, and Thanos didn't hear that because he leans on her pretty heavily in Infinity War and Endgame. So Thanos almost had the Power Stone here, which brings me to a tangent. In Avengers 1, Loki got the scepter from the other, and the scepter contains the Mind Stone. And the other worked for Thanos, so Thanos practically had the Mind Stone from the jump. And yet that's the last one he ends up acquiring, right?
Yes.
So that's 2 Infinity Stones he almost had right away. Mind Stone and the Power Stone. And that's that was the thing that I'd said I would save for Guardians of the Galaxy when we were talking about it in the Thor 2 episode. We were talking about Infinity Stones and their containers, and if the containers meet the powers and so on. So there you go. That probably did not measure up, but I didn't want to leave the thread dangling.
A quick summary of where the Infinity Stones that we've been introduced to.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that he practically had 2 to begin with. I guess that was my complete thought, and then I made it really long. On the Ravager's ship, Yondu is laying into Quill for obvious reasons. He's pretty mad at him. Gamora wants the Ravagers to help warn Xandar. Quill talks Yondu into it because Gamora knows everything about Ronan, and then if they get Ronan, they get the stone, and Yondu wants the stone. Just then, Rocket, Groot, and Drax show up to rescue, quote unquote, them by threatening to blow up the Ravager's ship with the Hadron Enforcer, which is the weapon that Rocket had made earlier. I don't know at what point he named it.
Right.
Quill
Like
gets
how he says, the idiot above.
Oh, yeah. Talking about Drax.
Yeah.
Quill gets everyone back together to warn Xandar and stop Ronan. It's a funny scene, but, you know, as with a lot of other things, describing it's not going to do it justice.
Oh, man, yeah. This is like one of my favorite scenes, especially when Rocket's like,
Now I'm standing. You all happy? We're all standing up now. Bunch of jackasses standing in a circle.
And Gamora also has a good line there. She says,
I have lived most of my life surrounded by my enemies. I will be grateful to die among my friends.
no, then it's just a whole montage of Quill and Gamora explaining the plan to Yondu and the Ravagers.
yes.
And it's not a bad plan.
Yeah, and the song here is Cherry Bomb. I don't know who the artist is there, but it's a good song. Good song choice here.
Yep.
Good song choice throughout the movie, obviously. All Ronan has to do is touch the stone to the planet's surface and everything will be wiped out. So the plan is don't let him get to the surface. They're going to blow a hole in Ronan's ship and fly in and kill Ronan with the Hadron Enforcer. And then everybody gets a little orb device to contain the stone should they be the one to find it. And they reiterate that touching the stone will kill you. Yondu wants the stone at the end of all this. No surprise. And we also see that he sure likes trinkets. That'll come into play later. On Xandar, John C. Reilly tells Nova Prime about the warning transmission they received from Peter Quill.
I like the space case face that Peter Quill has in caller ID. That was just hilarious.
What was it? I was looking for it.
Oh, he's just like looking down and he just looks dumbfounded, like this very spacey.
The face that he's making. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the face he's making. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about now. I thought you were saying that like he had a funny name as his caller ID. And I'm like, man, I don't see any. No. Like, I looked. I spent a lot of time looking for it. Nova Prime says, "Did he say why we should believe him?" Which I thought was a weird thing to say because, it's setting them up for a funny line. But why would you say that? Wouldn't you be like, should we believe him or something like that? Right. Anyways, John C. Reilly says...
He says that he's an a-hole, but he's not, and I'm quoting him here, 100% a dick.
Do you believe him?
I don't know that I believe anyone's 100% a dick, man.
That whole exchange is good. I'll probably just put that whole thing in. It's not us reading it. For real, though, what's John C. Reilly's character's name?
Roman Day.
Yeah, Roman Day, yeah. So Roman Day says he believes Star-Lord is there to help. Then the Ravagers, Quill, and company show up just as Ronan does, and they attack his ship according to the plan.
Yep.
The Nova Corps helps Rocket, and the Ravagers fight the Necrocraft.
Then Peter Quill declares really triumphantly, "They got my dick message."
Yes.
It's pretty cool, though. Like the Nova Corps, the Ravagers, and the Guardians. All three of them. All three of those big groups fighting together.
Yeah. So we get a big, long air battle, and we'll just hit the highlights on that, too, I think. For one, I like that it's well lit, and it's not, like, dark and in space, which I think is probably not easy to do in terms of special effects.
Yeah. It could have used a lot more slow motion.
Quill, Gamora, Drax, and Groot get in the Dark Aster as planned. I think they're just flying a different Ravager ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought that was... Oh, I guess maybe Rocket had the Milano?
Rocket has the Milano.
But yeah, lots of Ravagers die. Lots of Nova Corpsmen die. Including Denari and Sal, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that whole Nova Corps interlock thing. That seemed like a pretty stupid move to me.
I liked it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah. It's like all the...
Because there's no move after that. Like, what happens when you're all tied up together?
I don't know. You hope that it works, but it didn't. But yeah. It's like all the ships interlock to form like a blockade, and they use that to stop the Dark Aster from reaching the ground. I thought it was pretty cool. But also, I feel like there's got to be a better way for Ronan to get to the surface, right? I mean, he doesn't have like a little shuttle he could take, or he can't get like beamed down or something. Like, how did he get to where Thanos was when I forget what it was called, but that weird spot in Chitauri space, and when the other was like, you got to come right now. How did he get there? He must have like teleported somehow, right?
Oh, I thought that the Dark Aster just.
Maybe it was just
warp speeded it.
Yeah, they just did a cut. Okay, yeah.
But I mean, like, also he has the Power Stone, so couldn't he just literally jumped out of the Dark Aster and probably landed fine?
Probably. Quill, Gamora, Drax, and Groot start heading for the deck, which is where they're expecting to find Ronan. And then Nebula is there and confronts them, but Drax blasts her with a bazooka.
Yeah, that was a funny scene too.
Yeah.
It's like, nobody talks to my friends like that.
Yes.
And then on the ground, I guess Yondu just crashed, and Yondu is surrounded by a bunch of Ravagers and not Ravagers, but a bunch of the Ronan's people.
Yeah, I forget what they're called, like Sakaran or something.
Yeah, and they're telling him call off the Ravagers, and Yondu just basically does his whistling thing with his Yaka arrow, and I thought that was pretty great because we finally see why he was feared and respected by the other Ravagers.
Yeah, I had remembered that was featured more prominently in this movie. Like, I thought he'd used it many more times before this, but he hadn't really.
2 was where he used it a lot.
Yeah.
And then he gave it to Sean Gunn.
Yeah. Well, Sean Gunn gets it after Yondu dies.
Well, fair. Yeah.
Nebula fixes herself, then Gamora fights with her while she's trying to disarm the interlocks to get to the deck. Star-Lord and everybody else except Rocket run into Korath and crew, and then they get into a fight. Drax stabs one guy in front of him and one guy behind him, and then kind of like does this throw slicing thing in opposite directions. That was pretty cool. And then Drax kills Korath by ripping out some of the cybernetics from his head. And as he's doing that, he says,
"Finger to the throat means death." Metaphor. Sorta.
So good.
Yeah, he's great.
But don't worry. Again, he shows back up again in Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
much
Korath,
younger.
Yeah. There's a part of this fight where Groot shish kebabs like 8 guys on his arms and then swings them around, taking out a bunch of other guys.
Yep.
That was cool. Ronan blows apart the Nova Corps barrier, and therefore most of the Nova Corps ships with the Power Stone. And so George is happy because he doesn't like the Nova Corps barrier.
I mean, I was sad that Saul had to die.
Yes.
And some of those guys that, like, I think there was actually like, even like that, right? Like some Ravagers also die while protecting the city from Ronan's immolation initiative.
Yeah.
Or whatever he called it. And man, I gotta say, like, I definitely felt more sympathy for like some of those Ravagers and some of those Nova Corps people, despite like only seeing them briefly in the background.
Yeah, they're not in it a whole lot.
No, but you still felt for them.
Yeah.
And I felt way more for them than I did with like any of the warriors that died in Rebel Moon. And they tried really hard. Like they had like this little kid befriend the Asian lady with the lightsabers, and they were doing all kinds of scenes like him crying and them having some really strong bond that you just don't give a fuck about, because like you could tell that it was just being milked for whatever that visual is of like a little boy crying with like this stranger. But like, yeah, I just felt so much more for every like these background characters.
Who made
like,
you
dying.
watch the Rebel Moon movies, George?
Me. I did it. I did it to myself, because every time I see the dude has a new movie, he is really good at like special effects and like the backgrounds and stuff. And I just hope that like however many millions he's made, people throwing it at him saying, "Hey, make a good movie." I'm hoping one of these movies is going to be good. But I've been wrong ever since.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Yeah, I've been wrong since Man of Steel, and I just keep putting myself through it.
Gamora kicks Nebula out of the ship, then tries to save her, but Nebula drops onto a Ravager ship, kicks the pilot out, and takes off. And I probably would have just left all that out, except that she's an important character in the other MCU movies, so you need to know that she survived.
Right.
Then Gamora is able to destroy the locks on the bridge, and the gang all goes in to confront Ronan.
And then we get some really good use of slow motion.
Here we go.
With Quill firing the Hadron Collider at Ronan. And it's this powerful gun, and it doesn't do shit.
Yeah.
And lucky for them, Rocket just kamikazes the shit out of the Milano just before Ronan's about to break Drax's neck, because Drax makes another go at it.
Yep.
And Ronan's even stronger.
Yes.
So it doesn't end well.
Yep.
But yeah, and then Groot does this whole sacrifice move to save the team, because the rocket crashing the Milano into the cockpit of the Dark Aster basically wiped out the pilots.
Right.
And the Dark Aster is crashing into the planet, and Groot does this whole sacrificing himself to save the team thing. And he wraps everybody around. He just grows this cocoon. And man, like, you have to be heartless not to be touched by like how touching that whole scene was.
It definitely made me a little weepy. Yeah.
Right. And then the
go ahead.
No, just that we are Groot thing.
Yeah.
When he's just like, why? What are you doing?
Why are you doing this? Why?
We are Groot.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely made me a little weepy. And then Groot says, "We are Groot." I wish he had just said, "I am Groot," because then I was like, wait a minute, he can say "we." It kind of took me out of it. So the Dark Aster crashes, and everybody but Groot survives. Unfortunately, this includes Ronan. He also survived, even though he wasn't wrapped up by Groot. He's just, berserker strong. And Ronan walks out and gives the spiel to the crowd that has surrounded the crash site, and he says,
Behold, your guardians of the galaxy. What fruit have they wrought? Only that my father and his father shall finally know vengeance. People of Xandar, the time has come to rejoice and renounce your paltry gods. Your salvation is at hand.
But I felt like working this Guardians of the Galaxy in felt a bit unearned. It was weird that he just randomly called them Guardians of the Galaxy. It wasn't really organic enough. Yeah. It doesn't really seem like something he would have actually said.
Yeah.
And certainly, like, why would he have snidely referred to them as Guardians of the Galaxy? Nobody called them that before, right? I mean, not once in this movie.
Yep.
If they did, it might have worked better, but I don't know. That was a little weird. So Ronan's about to wipe everything out, but then Quill butts in.
You always have to love when the hero interrupts the monologue, the villain monologue type of thing. This whole "Ooh Child" dance off.
Can you sing a little bit?
I love this. I am not gonna sing it. It's not. Nobody wants me to sing it, but I
do.
Man, I love this.
I want you to sing a little bit.
Okay, you'll be disappointed then. But no, I just love this soundtrack, man, and like this whole soundtrack brings me back to when I was a kid in my dad's '77 Dodge Challenger. And
nice.
I love.
That's a cool memory.
Yeah, I just love. Yeah, it was such a good song. Everything, man.
James Gunn can pick music.
I think they got an award for the soundtrack. Was it this one or the next?
Picking the right songs?
No. I think the soundtrack in general got some award.
Okay. I don't know.
But yeah, pretty funny because Chris Pratt is dancing and Gamora does not partake in this dance off.
No, she's not having any of it. This is another scene, like, describing it's not going to do it justice. You got to see it.
Yeah.
So the dance off challenge confuses Ronan, and then we get this exchange.
What are you doing?
I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom.
Which I think is a hilarious insult. Then Ronan turns around just as Drax takes aim with the Hadron Enforcer and shoots the Warhammer this time with the Power Stone in it. Recall that if the Power Stone hits the ground, everything dies.
Yes. And then like another great actual use of slow motion as Quill and Ronan reach for the Power Stone, except that Peter catches it first.
Right. And then bad things start happening to him. And I don't know why, but I started getting like weird like teary feelings right when that happened too. Like I knew he wasn't going to die, but
Right.
I don't know. Also recall that the collector had said a group once contained the power for a little bit. Well, that was Chekhov's group containment, and it gets used here in the final act.
Yeah, and does it ever? And then like there's another flashback to his mom because Gamora is urging Peter to take her hand,
Right.
and you see him like having a flashback of his mom asking him for his hand, and then you're just rooting for them at that point.
Yeah.
And as Drax, also followed by Rocket, connect to Quill to help him channel the Power Stone, and then he uses it to fuck up Ronan, who is staring at him with incredulity.
Yes, he's not happy.
Right. Yeah, and then again, this is also where it, I guess, kind of getting spoon fed or like force fed into you. But when he says, "You said it yourself, bitch," we're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, when he says it there, I mean, Ronan had just said it, so it kind of makes sense. So like, I don't know, how did Ronan come up with it? Anyways, I could have done without the bitch. I don't know. That didn't work for me. Like, I think Dickhole could have worked. There's
Fair,
some other,
especially after Turd Blossom, right?
yeah, like exactly. Like he had
strong.
such a great insult, and then he just like kind of just goes with bitch. I'm like, nobody put any thought into that one.
Yeah.
I like that they all took damage from the energy this time. Like when it's all over, they aren't totally fine. They're pretty scraped up and kind of burned.
Yeah.
Unlike when Quill had saved Gamora earlier. But we're not done yet. Yondu wants the orb with the stone in it. So Quill gives him an orb. And fortunately, Yondu doesn't check what's in it right away.
Then I like this, the little bit of a breadcrumb that we get when Sean Gunn's talking to Yondu, and he's saying, "Hey, like Peter turned out pretty great. Aren't you glad that we didn't turn him over to his father?"
Yeah. Like they were hired to or something, right?
Yeah.
So Kraglin is Sean Gunn's character, who we pretty much didn't mention up to this point, other than in the cast, I think.
Except for what we call him Sean Gunn, though.
Yes. What was I saying here? Oh, so this line where they say, good thing we didn't turn him over to his father, like we were hired to do. I wonder, like, were they already planning Volume 2 at this point? Because that comes into play a lot there.
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that James Gunn, having his reputation as a pretty good director, they probably were like, here's what we want you to do. And if you knock it out of the park for 1, you're definitely getting a 2.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you just had like a seed of an idea, like why not put that line in?
Yeah.
Plus that would just make fans want to know more anyway, right? So more demand.
Yep.
So Rocket keeps a little bit of a stick of Groot, and Drax comforts Rocket, who's very upset about his dead friend.
And then I guess it pans away to them being back at Nova Corps headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And John C. Reilly and Nova Prime explain to Peter how he isn't completely human. And that definitely sets up Guardians 2.
Yeah, so they say he's only half Terran. His father's something very ancient that they'd never seen before. And then Gamora suggests maybe that's why he could hold the stone for as long as he did. So then I was like, did she and Drax and Rocket all get like banged up for nothing? Did they need to help him or no?
I took it as they still needed to help him, but like Karina exploded as soon as she touched it.
Right.
I think that's all she was saying.
Okay. I also feel like that line wasn't necessary because it seems obvious that if he's half something else, then maybe that's why. And we already had the group containment thing. Anyways, as a thank you, the Nova Corps rebuilt the Milano for Quill, and all their criminal records were expunged as well.
And then Peter opens up his mom's present finally and reads her letter. And we get, is it the Guardians was that the Guardians 2 soundtrack that was in there?
I'm not sure. It just says Volume 2, right? It's like
Awesome Mix
Volume 2,
yeah.
but I don't think it says what songs are on it. I should look, because that would be really hard to plan. Really hard to plan ahead. But I guess the present survived the crash, and Nova Corps put it back where it needed to be.
Yeah,
that was a little bit of a continuity thing there.
Yeah.
Yondu finally opens the orb on his ship, and it's got one of the troll dolls inside, not the Power Stone. And I guess he's such a lover of trinkets that he's fine with that because he doesn't seem mad. He just starts laughing.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering maybe he knew Quill would do something like that, but he kind of put on a show so that he could save face with the crew.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Because I thought he knew. I figured he was like, figures.
Yeah. Then on Xandar, the broker has the orb and he hides it away at his place on Xandar, safe and sound forever and ever. Right? Nothing bad is going to happen.
Of course.
In the Milano, the Groot twig that Rocket had planted in a pot starts to come alive, and then they take off in the ship, and we get the Guardians of the Galaxy will return.
I love that little scene where Baby Groot danced while Drax wasn't looking. That was so cute.
Yes. I guess that's like a pre-credit stinger. That might be the first one of those. Then we get the credits, and then a post-credit stinger, which is Cosmo, the space dog, licking the Collector's face in the wreckage of the Collector's shop or whatever you want to call it, his collection. And it's you see Howard the Duck there, and he just says gross. Yeah. And all the nerds in the theater went wild when I saw that.
When they saw Howard the Duck?
Yes.
Oh man. Did you know that was Seth Green's voice?
I think somebody told me that before. It sounds familiar, but I definitely didn't know it at the time. And I've definitely forgotten about it.
Yeah, it's too bad that Thanos killed Benicio del Toro off in Infinity War.
Does he actually kill him?
No more Collector. I assume he killed everybody in Nowhere.
I mean, it would make sense too, but
yeah.
I don't know if they show it on screen. Changes we'd like to have seen. I don't have a whole lot. Basically, get rid of the stuff that we didn't need, like that line. Maybe that's why you were able to contain the power. Blah blah blah. That one fight at the kiln could have been a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
And I retract this last one, like the put Nathan. I was gonna say put Nathan Fillion in a more prominent role, but he gets used in Volume 3, and I don't know if it wouldn't have worked if he got used here first. So.
Right. And then you forgot the Forced Guardian of the Galaxy.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it in somewhere else earlier so that it works a little better. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, you better have something here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I feel hella bad.
Drax.
I feel like I
want to know what this is.
Well, I mean, my first one was that whole Nova Corps interlock scene. And actually, just in general, the Nova Corps, how they used the Nova Corps was kind of disappointing because the Nova Corps is basically Marvel's version of the Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, okay.
Instead of rings, they had these helmets that basically the Nova Prime would talk to them. There was like a supercomputer on Nova that was basically giving them these powers through their helmet and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how that would have translated in the movie, but like, this version, I wasn't that much of a fan of. And I was hoping that Nova, the actual Nova hero that got assigned to Earth, I was hoping that he would show up at some point because he was a pretty cool character in the comic books. Mm-hmm. So that's one. And again, it's like, these are like nitpicks because the MCU is totally different and not beholden to everything in the comic books.
Right.
So I'm totally fine with it. I just kind of wish it had gone the other way. But the thing with Drax, though, is being my biggest nitpick is that he is pretty stupid in the comic books too.
Uh-huh.
But he's also ridiculously fucking strong. And I get that they wanted to make him less green.
Yeah.
But his sole purpose in the comic books was to kill Thanos. And he actually can go toe-to-toe with the Hulk. But he's reduced to this moderately strong alien with knives. And so he just seems so misused to me. Don't get me wrong, I still love him as a character, but I kind of wish that they'd done more with the actual Drax. Being called the Destroyer just because you killed a bunch of like minions, to me doesn't make you a Destroyer.
Makes you
so I feel
killer.
like they just kind of that just makes you the Drax the serial killer. You know what I mean? But the Destroyer means you can hold your own against a planet if you had to, right? And I get that, they don't want to, I think I remember reading somewhere that they didn't want to do too much. They didn't want to basically create another Hulk in the MCU.
Right.
But I mean, Thor is super strong and nobody worried about it.
Well, I think the thing was because isn't Drax basically green in the comics?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a big green guy. And I think they would have been like, well, we don't want another big green guy. And so I know that's why they made him kind of like that blue gray color. And then maybe they also didn't want to make him super strong. I was going to say
color him purple, but then he would have been Thanos.
Yeah.
Just pick another color.
Yeah.
I guess like other colors don't quite work very well, but I don't know. I just thought that they could have done more with him and they could have kept him like that dense.
Yeah.
And then I feel like they would have had more to work if he was like this ridiculously overpowered guy who just wasn't that smart,
Yeah.
But
Okay.
anyway, that
All
was
right.
that was it. I
That was worth
overbuilt it. Yeah.
No, that was worth it. I mean, I follow that. No problem. I get it.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, let's move on to the ranking. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 92% with the critics and 92% with the audience, which pretty good. And that puts it around other Rotten Tomatoes scores for Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Iron Man, and the Avengers. They're all right there in the low 90s.
Oh.
I wanted to read the ranking real quick. From bottom to top, we have Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers, Thor, Captain America the First Avenger, Iron Man, and then at number 1, Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Do you want to go first on your ranking thoughts?
Oh, man. There's so many good scenes here. You know, everything from Peter landing on Morag and Come and Get Your Love is playing in the background to the rap sheet scene.
Yep.
The whole thing where they're sitting around in Yondu's ship arguing about the plan. Like scenes like that. There's so many more of those scenes than I think in the MCU movies up to this point that kind of put this movie over the top for me.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this movie should have been stupid and dumb, but it's great. It's a good time. I don't have a whole lot of valid complaints about it. It's pretty simple. Don't let the bad guy get the powerful thing, but it's made fun and funny and interesting. Top tier special effects. If we ranked on special effects alone, it would be a lot harder. There was not one frame that looked bad in this movie. I originally said not one frame that looked fake, but you have a talking raccoon in a walking tree, and it's kind of, but they look great. They look really, really good.
No, they look awesome, man.
Yeah. Cool ships and creature designs all around. Apparently, James Gunn had started with the design and look of the movie before he did anything else. Like he just put together a book of how he wanted everything to look, and it shows. He put a lot of care into it.
Yeah.
I feel like this one is kind of like the Iron Man 1 of the cosmic part of the MCU, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's totally new stuff after 9 other movies, and it's done really well. I think it's better than Thor, probably. Looking at the movies, but I don't know about like Captain America, the First Avenger, and Iron Man 1. I'm not sure how much better than Thor it is. But that's kind of my low point. Somewhere between, maybe the new 4. I could potentially be convinced to go higher or lower if you don't think it's that high. What are you thinking?
Yeah. So to me, in my order, it was really tough thinking, because I was actually thinking about this earlier with Captain America at the top, and Captain America Winter Soldier, I definitely thought it was toe to toe until I started thinking about how there are just so many scenes I really like and enjoy watching and rewatching in this movie. And that's what actually puts it to slot number 1 for me.
Oh, you think it's number 1, huh?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good scenes in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, too, though.
No, hands down there are, but there's also, to me, there's just a lot of joy in this movie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they don't have to always be joyful and funny and everything. And like all the people who are like, oh, Marvel's ruining their movies by making them funny. I think all those people need to suck it, because it's.
I think I could go 2. If you want to compromise at 2, and then it'll be locked in at 2, or we can gamble for it.
I thought we were gonna gamble for it whenever.
Well, I mean, we can gamble for it. We can gamble for it. Like we just gamble at the end anyway. But like, I don't think that is number 1, and you don't think that is number 4. I think number 2 is a pretty good compromise. I'm throwing it out there. That's also how this can work.
But so you think it's like near Iron Man 1?
I would put it as the new number 2, putting Iron Man down to 3, et cetera, right? And you're saying it should be number 1, and Captain America should be number 2. Right. If we were to gamble for it and I were to win, I would say it's number 4.
So it would be where the first Avenger. I mean, no, sorry. It would be where Thor is.
Yes.
Thor would be the new 5.
Yes.
Ooh.
So I'm saying we can lock it in at 2. You know, neither one of us is getting our way. It's actually working out a little bit better in your favor.
Right.
But I
think it's more fun when we fight it out.
Yes, but I would rather the ranking be more accurately reflect. I mean, if you want to argue over like 2 or 3, right. I'm willing to argue over that.
No. I think I'm willing to concede, and I'm willing to compromise and put it at 2.
Okay.
Because I did have a hard time. I really actually had to wrestle and think about 1 versus 2, and it wasn't until like I started rereading my favorite scenes that I could watch over and over again. That's what made me put it over to 1. But yeah, I'd rather it go to 2 than be in 4, because I definitely don't think it's a 4.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes Guardians of the Galaxy our new number 2 movie. And that means we will just play Infinity Saga Trivial Pursuit Poker for fun, and we can see which one of us is going to kick ourselves in the butt for not gambling. All right. It is your turn to bid first. I'd like that we did the compromise this time, though. That's something different. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Let's read these, and then it's your turn to bid first.
The ancient one. That was Tilda Swinton, right?
Yes. Thanks for telling me. I didn't.
I was trying to remember who her character was too.
All right.
These are freaking hard.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm drawing a blank on several of these. All right, your turn to bid first.
I got 1 that I know for sure.
Okay. I am going to let you go with 1 because this actually doesn't matter, and I think I could get the multiple choice maybe. So let me find the answers real quick, and then I will read the questions. I'll probably be forgiving on these since it doesn't matter. Here we go. The Ancient One compares the language of the mystic arts as being as old as what else?
Time.
Not time. I'll give you a second guess.
Space.
No. Civilization.
Oh, so language, I guess. Yeah.
It makes sense.
People.
It makes sense now that I hear the answer.
Yeah.
What kind of pet does Yelena Belova tell Natasha Romanoff she wants?
I want to say a horse.
It's a dog.
A dog? Oh.
I was thinking it was some kind of dog. I would have guessed like a Chihuahua or something. I don't know. What is the name of the female coworker that Bruce Banner rescues? Martina, Martha, or Betty?
I was like Betty.
It's Martina.
Was it Martina? Oh, jeez.
I don't even know. I guess, is that in The Incredible Hulk? I'm not even sure what movie that was from.
Yeah, which one? Like, are we talking about the comic books, the MCU?
I think this is all. I think this is all MCU. I believe this is all MCU, but I'm not sure. I'm not positive. What is the name of the communications devices the Wakandans wear on their wrists?
Kimoye beads?
Wow, good. There you go. You win. What city does Caecilius cause to fold in on itself in the mirror dimension?
Yeah, I wanted to say Chicago on this one for some reason.
No, New York City.
New York City? Okay.
Understood the question when I saw the answer. I can see it in the movie now. What object of General Dracov's activates his computer program that controls the widows? Controls the widows.
I want to say his ring.
There you go. Boom. You got 2, buddy.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I was totally guessing on that one.
Yeah. Well, it was a good guess. All right. Man, I'm glad you went for that. That's why I was like, if I give him 2, maybe he'll like. If I give him spot number 2, maybe he'll go for it. All right. That's it for Guardians.
Good move on that.
That's how this works. That's it for Guardians of the Galaxy. Next up, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron. That's from May 1st, 2015. It was about 9 months between movies there. A little bit of a wait. Did you start that one yet?
No, but I mean, I think that's going to be a fun one still.
Yeah.
I love Ultron and the Vision. The Vision there.
Yes, there's a lot to like in that one. I didn't finish it yet, but I started it. We do have Majors going for the hat trick on the email, 3 in a row.
Really?
He's becoming even more brief each time, but that's okay. I appreciate it, Majors. He just said, I look forward to your thoughts on the new X-Men 97. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard from other podcasts and friends how they're all loving it. He's listening to other podcasts.
I do love it. I love the X-Men night. I'm so sad that it's already in they're already
no spoilers.
doing the finals.
No spoilers, but
I won't.
Anything,
have you seen it?
I'm caught up on it. Yeah, I got a few notes. But if you want to go first, just you like it.
I like it a lot. Yeah. I gotta say, like when I first saw it, I was like, "This is the same intro as the old one."
Mm-hmm.
And then when it started, I was like, "Wait, this isn't what I remember the first episode being." So it took me a while because it was the art style and everything is the same.
Yeah.
And the voice actors sound very similar to what I remember.
Some of them are the same. Voice actors.
That's why.
It's funny you said that the intro looks the same because I'd heard that it looks very similar, and I watched it. I was like, "This is the exact same." And then I was like, "Oh, I'm accidentally watching the original series."
Yeah. I know. I will say, I do love that Cyclops is no longer like a little whiny punk ass.
Yes, he's really good in this. I will say, good. Yeah.
I have actually always liked Cyclops way more than Captain America, and to me, he's the equivalent of Captain America. But if you imagine Captain America not having a shield, but instead having laser eyes.
Yeah.
Because like
that's interesting.
He's like pretty awesome, and that whole scene where he jumped out of the plane without a parachute. That's like, I was like, this is how you do. This is why I always hated that Wolverine. I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, but I always hated that Wolverine took all of the shine away, and and there was like no attention or care given to like Cyclops. Like for a minute, Nightcrawler got his due in the White House scene in X2.
Yeah.
Like that was an amazing 5 minutes of what Nightcrawler could do if you let him be Nightcrawler, right? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah.
That was such an awesome. That blew my mind away, and then
that was really good effects for the time too.
Yeah, and then like Bryan Singer and Brett Ratner ended up ruining the rest of it for me.
Yes.
But no, I love this X-Men 97.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like you mentioned, Wolverine. I didn't like the Wolverine voice in this at first, but it kind of grew on me. Like, he's always like calling everybody bub.
Yeah, it's a little overly loyal to the comic book dialogue.
So I would say the first 2 episodes I was a little not so sure on it. Like it was fine. It kind of vacillated between interesting and corny. But then like the 3rd episode gets wild, and it's pretty good from there on out. So, and I think if I rewatched the first 2 episodes, I'd probably like them better. So anyways, I would say if you like the original, I think you'd like this.
Yeah. If you like Cyclops, you'll really like this.
Yeah. All right. If you want to contact us, you can email us at absolutelythebestpodcast@gmail.com. Join our Discord. The link is in the show notes. And we also have links to our socials and ways you can help support the show. The best thing you can do is to leave a review. Please help us spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell Zack Snyder. And I am Groot. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Have a great day.
Absolutely the Best Podcast is a production of Audio Johnny, a subsidy of Corporation Johnny. Corporation Johnny. If it exists, we own it.